Hello and welcome to the pod. I'm Nathan Fink.
I'm Jolyn Drennan, and this is New Hampshire Family Now,
a show about building family in the Granite State. Today in the show, we celebrate Mark Knight's Ride for Resilience. Spoiler alert, he made it. And later, Erin Pettengill, Vice President of Family Resource Center of Central New Hampshire at Lakes Region Community Services, and Cathy Livingston, Interim Director of Family Connections Resource Center at Children Unlimited, join us to talk Family Resource Center of Quality Designation. New Hampshire Family Now is brought to you by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. Since 1962, the Charitable Foundation has worked hand in hand with generous and visionary citizens to maximize the power of giving and support, collaborate, and lead innovative initiatives. Initiatives like New Hampshire Tomorrow, which is focused on making sure children and families have access to education, healthcare, and career pathways to ensure every family member thrives. To learn more about New Hampshire Charitable Foundation and all their initiatives, go to www.nhcf.org. This podcast was also brought to you by Family Support New Hampshire. Family Support New Hampshire is NH's coalition of family resource centers and family strengthening programs that exist to ensure Granite State families have access to resources so both caregivers and children can succeed, because supported families are strong families. To find a family resource center near you, visit www.fsnh.org. I'm beyond excited to once again welcome Mark Knight, New Hampshire Children's Trust board member, partner with Nixon-Peabody Law Firm, and father of three. Mark, thanks for coming back on the show.
I'm happy to be here again.
And alive, given what you've been through. So on October 15th, you rode your bicycle from Claremont, New Hampshire, all the way to the seacoast, connecting family resource centers along the way. That's 100 miles. Can you give us an update of how that went?
It went extremely well, much better than I thought it was going to. I figured at some point I was just going to want to stop and throw the bike in the ditch and never touch a bicycle ever again. And I never really got to that point. I had fun the entire time. It was really a great experience.
So you were on your bike then in total for how long and how many vertical feet?
Oh, yeah. Those first 20 miles, I think we gained about 2,000 feet in elevation just there. I think overall it was about 5,800 feet of total elevation gain over those 100 miles or so. And I was on the bike in the saddle for just short of 7 hours.
I mean, when I think about sitting on a narrow road bike seat for that many hours, over a mile vertical feet, that's hard. And yet you came out of it thinking that was enjoyable. So what made it so for you?
I think a lot of it was once I got past those 2,000 vertical feet at the beginning, everything else was just sort of icing on the cake. That was a real challenge. And I knew it was going to be a real challenge going into it. So once I got past that point, everything else was much easier to do. I knew that I had done the most difficult part of the ride, and I could just sit back and enjoy the rest of it.
You know, the first part, obviously, you have your most energy. The first part, you have your excitement of having launched, maybe a little nervousness, right? So you're able to tackle that harder part right in the beginning with more of, I guess, your present self. But then, you know, there's this talk of on Everest. Most people die actually descending because they believe the challenge is over. And yet challenge after challenge and what the descent is comes up and starts to kind of snap up people. On that second leg, were the challenges different? What were they? And how did you reckon with them as you went?
After you've been on the bicycle for 4 or 5 hours, it starts to be repetitive and you've got to do something to keep yourself entertained. And so I had some songs from Hamilton running over in my head again and again because my daughter insists that we listen to that in the car on the way to school every morning. I had a little Ramones going, 24 miles to go.
Now, full disclosure, I sagged the ride. So I got a good view of you from a car to kind of pass you, get you food, fix things as they broke. So I could see you physically and I could see your physicality change. But of course, I can never, or no one can ever be in the head of somebody experiencing challenges. And I wonder specifically, because this is a ride for resilience, right? And a ride for resilience sometimes is upon reflection. And in those specific moments of challenge, climbing those vertical feet, what did you think? What did you feel?
I'll say that knowing that I had so many people who had supported me in this ride was a huge motivator for me. And it's no exaggeration to say that there were maybe at least 100 people who contributed in some way, not just fundraising dollars, but, just helping me along this path to make this ride a success. And knowing that I had that many people behind me really, really helped. During the last half of the ride, the last 20 miles of the ride, there were some uphill sections again, where my legs had really taken a beating by that point, and it was going to be difficult for me to overcome those. And I just took those fundraising dollars that I had made, and I said, this next quarter mile or so, that's $50 that I'm going to raise. And I used that as my motivator. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the great contribution of my wife, who consented to being a single parent when I went out on these 4 to 5 hour training rides before this one. She was a great support as well. And she actually drove by me while I was cycling up Route 9 in Concord and gave me a little boost of energy there. She was a great partner in all this.
One of the strengthening families' protective factors is social connection. And you kind of alluded to the fact that as you were going through this duress and this challenge, that you could basically see, feel, maybe hear some of that social network that you've had, which is a network of support for you. Can you speak a little bit about that in terms of how that plays out, not only against your ride, but against yourself as a father of 3?
Just in my day-to-day life, there's so many people that contribute to making my children's lives successful. When we can't necessarily cover, whether it be a dance recital or dance practice or a cross-country meet, there are people in the family and in our community who are there to support us and who will go and cheer on our kids or pick up our kids and bring them home. And without those people, parenting would be so much more difficult. We're really fortunate to have that social network that we can rely on in our day-to-day lives.
And I imagine as you went, those people become more and more vibrant physically on the ride because you see them and you see what they mean to you. And then when that social network is there, you feel like you have a backbone, you have a net, you have some way to overcome it. You started in Claremont at TLC Family Resource Center, and then you went across to Waypoint in Concord, and you wound up at Community Action Partnership of Stratford County and Dover. And at each location, we talked to a staff member at the FRC, and you physically got to see the supports in place for families and children, whether it was TLC's new sensory room or Stratford CAP's apartments for folks. What did that mean to you to ride and connect family resources, knowing that this was a ride for resilience?
It was really inspiring to see the great work that the family resource centers were doing in our communities throughout New Hampshire. I think at one stop, I told the person I spoke to at the Family Resource Center that, riding the bicycle was the easy part, and the work that they're doing is really difficult and inspiring. And it certainly is. It really, knowing that I was drawing attention and bringing awareness about the great work that the Family Resource Centers are doing was a real inspiration for me in this ride, because they really are doing God's work in providing supports to families throughout New Hampshire.
Now, along the way, and given your exhaustion and really increasing need, because as you try to tackle something like this, again, 100 miles, you're going through something that is putting stress on your body, on your mind. And I can only imagine that your understanding of the critical importance of these agencies may have changed or progressed. In fact, we toured Stratford CAP at the very last moment. When you arrive, you hold your bike up, and then there's, hey, let's walk through this building. And I thought, oh my gosh, Mark's legs. And yet you said, let's do it, and ran up the stairs. Where did that come from?
Some of that was pure endorphins, I'll say, being able to run up those stairs. And I did it in my bike shoes too. I didn't take my bike shoes off at the end when we went up those stairs. I was excited to see what Community Action Partnership in Stratford County was doing. Each of these family resource centers serves their community in a different way, and they're all doing great, inspiring work. And it was exciting to see what was going on at each of them.
And from what I understand, Mark, it seems like you want to do this ride again come fall, make it a repeated ride to highlight resilience and family strengthening factors in the FRCs. Is that true?
Absolutely. This was a fantastic experience, and I've already had people come up to me and say that they would like to participate next year if they can. So although I did this alone this year, although as we discussed, I didn't really do it alone. Although I rode my bike alone this year, I hope to have more people participate again next year. And I'm hoping this is something that we can continue to grow into the future.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for the ride and for giving us a little window into your own resilience. Having been there, it was an experience to watch. So we appreciate all of your effort on this and congratulations for making it.
Thank you for all your help, Nathan, and thanks for all the great work that the Children's Trust is doing.
Now, there's still time to give to the Ride for Resilience. And if you'd like to, go to www.nhchildrenstrust.org/Ride for Resilience. And when we come back, Erin Pettengill and Cathy Livingston join us. Don't go anywhere. Today's show is also brought to you by the Children's Hospital at Dartmouth-Hitchcock and the Child Advocacy and Protection Program, a multidisciplinary program with the Children's Hospital established to evaluate and provide integrative care to suspected victims of child maltreatment. Together, a team of physicians, advanced practice registered nurses, social workers, nurses, and child life specialists work to provide consultation and evaluations of children who are suspected victims of abuse, so to serve in the best interest of children and families at multiple levels of prevention. For more information about Children's Hospital at Dartmouth-Hitchcock and the Child Advocacy Protection Program, visit www.chadkids.org/child-advocacy. New Hampshire Family Now is a proud participant in the Your Voice campaign. Together, the Parent Information Center, New Hampshire Family Voices, and New Hampshire Children's Trust have launched a statewide campaign dedicated to celebrating the critical role family voice plays in shaping services and systems throughout the Granite State. Because questions families ask and the information they share often makes a difference in understanding a diagnosis, building an effective treatment plan, and informing the services they use every day. To learn more about the campaign, go to nhchildrenstrust.org/yourvoice or picnh.org/yourvoice. I'm thrilled to welcome Erin Pettengill, Vice President of Family Resource Center of Central New Hampshire at Lakes Region Community Services, and Cathy Livingston, Interim Director of Family Connections Resource Center at Children Unlimited. Erin, Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I just wanted to say it is an honor and a privilege to be able to be here today, and I'm very fortunate to be here with Erin, who is heading up New Hampshire Family Support. So thank you very much for having us today.
I owe you a huge congratulations for having received your Family Resource Center of Quality designation from New Hampshire's Wellness and Primary Prevention Council. So this one, I guess, is for you.
Thank you.
Is it a relief?
It really is. So, I can't take credit for the actual process of the application. So a couple of my staff really headed up the actual process of writing out the application and putting those pieces together. But I can tell you that they are very relieved to have that process done. It is very, very in-depth, and it really is a deep dive of what our Family Resource Center does and how we do it.
I would agree with Erin. It was enlightening. It was eye-opening. We knew one person couldn't do it. So I started working on it in 2019, actually, with Barbara Ross. So we decided we're going to divide this into subject areas. So she took the narrative and wrote that, and each one of us took one of the self-assessments to say, okay, we're going to do the work on this. So it definitely was a team effort. Artisiana, our executive director, was like, whatever you need for help. And she jumped in, and the two of us filled out the application, did a lot of work with Maria Doyle. I have to say, New Hampshire Children's Trust, the support that we got from Maria and from Karen was just absolutely amazing, from having individual meetings to setting up the cohorts with the different resource centers. That was the key to our success, I would have to say, is having that support.
Same for us. My staff really relied on her to help guide through the process, and she is phenomenal and knows the standards just so well that the conversations that they had were really, really beneficial, and it helped them with the application.
I don't think you know this, but that movie, Waiting to Exhale, was based on the FRCQ process.
Makes
to do a
sense.
sequel.
Obviously, there's relief. There's relief around, and you guys are talking about an application, but an application, that's an inside thing for you guys in these organizations. So I want to step back and look at, all right, there's relief here because that process is over. You were designated. But what does that designation mean for families? What does it compel you to do? Anything different? Anything new? Does it support something you're doing?
So for us, our structure looks a little different now. We have a little bit more of an awareness on how we support families down to the policies that we have developed in the Family Resource Center. So part of the application is looking at the policies that we have and the way we do things and the layout of our office and how we approach families. And a lot of that was stuff that we never really thought about. We just sort of did it. And to be reflective like that, we are now able to really raise the level of collaboration with families. And I say collaboration because it really is a partnership in working with families. And I think this process really does speak to the importance of working hand in hand with families in whatever, they come in for, and having that level of respect for families and understanding that we are here to help and we are non-judgmental and we're humble. So this process really gave us an element of understanding how we approach families in so many different ways that we had never thought about before.
We felt the same way too. It really highlighted for us what we were doing well. If you don't on a day-to-day basis step back and say, what are we actually doing? But when you go through standard by standard and you are saying, okay, this is how we meet minimum quality, this is how we're meeting high quality, it really gives you an indication of, wow, we really are doing a lot of good things. And it gave us the ability to say, particularly throughout COVID, we are going through this designation process, all the services that we are still being able to provide to families, with families and for them, and really embracing working with families by saying, how can we elevate voices even more? How can we have families partner with us? So it's not a service we're providing, but what do you think? What would be beneficial? And having families and caregivers be part of all of our programs and all of our processes. And that was absolutely amazing. And it was affirming to see what we're doing really well. And then it brought to light, okay, these are some things that we really could work on. But it was dissecting piece by piece and getting other people's thoughts on it. What does staff think about it? What do families think? What do funders think? What do our community partners think? And it really highlighted for our resource center how well we adapted as a community to COVID in particular, and how we can all work together and not be siloed in our own little area, but how collectively can we work. And I feel so much hope through this process because it's really going to elevate what we're able to give to families.
It feels almost like the strengths-based approach in investigating or auditing your own services. But when we talk about service provision, we talk about it that way. Service provision, which if you step back as a family and you're like, hey, do you need some service provision? No is the answer, because I don't know what service provision means, right? I don't know specifically what you're talking about. So I'm interested in a couple of specific examples. What was one thing specifically that you learned that you did well and want to continue to support? And on the other side, what is one thing that you thought we need to actually pick this up because of this reason?
Yeah. So most amazing things that we have in our Family Resource Center is our Family Leadership Council. And that really is a huge element on the services that we offer. So a lot of times if we are thinking about doing a project or we are seeing a need, we can bring it to our Family Leadership Council and say, hey guys, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? And their feedback and their perspective is priceless. And oftentimes, whatever they say, I say, yep, let's do it that way because they know better. At the end of the day, they know better. They've been in the majority of our Family Leadership Council. Actually, I think all of them have been in literally every single program, every single thing that we offer. So they have an idea of the family's perspective on all of our programs. So having them drive how we offer things is really something that we're super proud of. One of the things that we are working on is developing exit surveys. So I don't know about you, Cathy, but our Family Resource Center is made up of so many different funding streams, which means we have so many different outcomes that we need to report on. So we develop all these different, pieces, and it was a little fractured. So one of the things that we realized in this process is that we need to develop an exit survey and get more feedback from families in a more concrete way that doesn't just meet the needs of all the grants and contracts that we have, but it speaks to how we are offering things at the Family Resource Center and how we can sort of raise that bar.
For us at the Family Connections Resource Center, we are working with the Early Childhood Coalition. So Artis and I are the co-leaders of that, which is called Raising the Valley now. And with that, we said, all right, we really need more parent involvement, caregiver involvement. So we developed a leadership team, which has a few parents and caregivers, and worked on a strategic plan, which we just finished at the end of September. And before we actually completed it, we asked parents, we said, could you spend some time with us and actually look at this? What do you think? And the families that I worked with personally, because we made a committee and then we each took a few families that we worked with. And for me, that was so enlightening. And so families were so excited that it wasn't just, oh, you just want me to fill out a survey, or I don't know what you're going to do with this, but you actually want my opinion on, we asked, what do you think about the pictures for the logos? What do you think about the language that we're using? What do you think about the strategies? And they were so honored. And when I said to them, we're including your name as part of writing this document, it was amazing. We were saying we need to take that even further and really each and every one of our programs have that involvement because it really elevates it. And like Erin was saying, they are the experts. They're doing it. They're in it. It's not us. So being a true partner in that way was phenomenal. We experienced the same with collection of data. It was like, what do we do with it now? Where is it going? And how do we get it back out to the community? How do we get it back out to the parents? So it's not just sitting there. So that's something that through this process really elevated. We need to be doing a better job about that and not just doing it because it's an outcome that needs to happen, but truly figuring out a way to make it an ongoing process too. That was one thing throughout this designation process is we know that it's fluid, it's dynamic. It doesn't just stop when we got the letter saying you're designated, but it's going to be a continuous process. So
now, Erin, I know you wear many hats, obviously at the FRC at the Lakes Region Community Services, but you're also the board president of Family Support New Hampshire, which is New Hampshire's coalition of family resource centers. What do these two designations mean for New Hampshire's network of family support?
That's a great question. So having these designations really allow the family resource centers to unite in a way that we've never been united before. So Family Support New Hampshire has gone through a progression. And once the FRCQ designation came up, we realized that not only are all the family resource centers looking internally at how they offer services and being reflective on how they, support families, we're also unifying family resource centers across the state. So having that alignment with other family resource centers, I can say in meetings, in the 1 billion meetings that I'm in, the FRCQ designation, these are how many family resource centers are designated, which means this is the level of support and this is the level of operation that these family resource centers are at. And it really creates a unifying theme for the family resource centers across the state. And that is priceless for the state of New Hampshire and for children and families all across the state.
Now, Cathy, as the Interim Director of the Family Connections Resource Center at Children Unlimited, what does it mean to you then to know that there's a network of family resource centers out there across the state trying to unify services and raise the bar?
To me, it is so incredibly helpful because I think if we're trying to have a shared language, shared services, that it's all streamlined. If we're all talking about the same thing, we can all help each other. We can all support each other. And the stronger that we are as individual resource centers, we're going to be able to help our families and our community better that way too. So for me, it's tremendous. And to see the amount of growth of Family Support New Hampshire under the leadership of Erin has been absolutely priceless. And I really appreciate it. And I right? It just highlights to me how well we all work together and that we all need to be working together. It's not one person, it's not one entity, but together that we can do this. And so I'm very fortunate and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And it's very helpful.
Thank you, Cathy. You literally just made my day.
Awesome.
Now, I want to switch to aspirations because I think it's really important. You guys went through a process and that process was a relief and that process made you look backwards. Where are you looking forward now?
So for us, we are going to work on our surveys and we're always looking for the next best thing to support families. So it's an ongoing process. Families' needs change. Focus changes. I mean, COVID was a really good example of that, right? So once COVID happened and it seemed like overnight, all the family resource centers got together on a Saturday and all of a sudden, all of us are doing remote and the needs changed. And it was basic needs, toilet paper, food. And now that we're sort of coming out of that, families are experiencing different sets of needs. And our jobs as family resource centers is to figure out a way to meet those needs. So it's never boring. We are always trying to figure out a new way to meet the needs of families. And I think that is an ongoing thing that will never change. And that is our aspiration every single day, is to be able to meet the needs of any single family that comes through our door.
We're looking at our programs and saying we're a relatively small staff. We did just hire a new family support provider last week, which has been phenomenal. So we're looking at what are the opportunities that are offered to us now? How can we grow and make those better? And it also makes me look at myself and our staff and say, we have to be in a good place. Like we have to take check of ourselves. We really have to be doing what we're saying to other people. So we need to take care of ourselves. We need to limit what we are doing at times if we're not in the best space, and really honoring that and knowing that things are changing on a daily basis and the ability to be flexible, adaptable. One thing I was thinking about too through the process was we had to have humor. Like we had to just laugh sometimes, like this broke down or I can't find this, or without that, it would have been a lot tougher. So I try to remember that too. And with families, like just say, okay, let's just take a breath. Let's take a step back. But I think always honoring where you are as a person, where your staff is, where you are, then we're going to be at our best to be able to give our best to our families and to be able to model for them too, to say, get it, I've been there too, felt the same way. Let's talk about this. So I think being transparent, I think really honoring where we are as a society, feeling that COVID is ongoing and not only is it current, but those cumulative effects are still there too. And just being honest and open with ourselves and with each other too. So
for us, Cathy and I, and I'm speaking for you, Cathy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but our primary role really is to support our staff, right? Mm-hmm. So children and families in New Hampshire are incredibly stressed out. Our staff have children and families, like they are stressed out too. So our job is to make sure that our family resource center has a level of self-care so that our staff have the ability to support other families. And like that is their job, to support children and families. And if they don't have the support from us, it's a trickle effect and it doesn't work. And that is a really good point, Cathy. And that I think is definitely something that I aspire to too, is be able to support all of my staff so that they have the capacity to support children and families.
And, for me, stepping into this role, it's a whole new world of saying, okay, and in doing that, who's there for you and how do you take care of you? Because sometimes things can just be absolutely, coming at you from different directions, and it's honoring, okay, I need to slow down, or this is too much for me too. So for me, it's trying to find that balance. It's always balance of, what are my work commitments? What's going on in my home life? What's going on at the resource center, at Children Unlimited in general too, and just saying, okay, as one person, what do we need to? So definitely checking in with staff and being there for them. That's a huge part of our work too.
I absolutely love what I'm hearing. I love the resilience strategies, the strengthening, individuals and families strategies. I love the responsiveness talk. If we listen to families, we are responsive, and that's at the heart of what we're trying to do. I'm thrilled to have had this conversation with you guys. This is awesome and energizing for me in a particularly long morning. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Erin, and thank you so much, Cathy, for being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. And thank you again to New Hampshire Children's Trust, because we wouldn't be through the designation process without you. So thank you.
To learn more about Family Resource Center of Central New Hampshire at Lakes Region Community Services, visit www.lrcs.org. And to learn more about the Family Connections Resource Center at Children Unlimited, visit www.childrenunlimitedinc.org. Many thanks to New Hampshire's Office of Social and Emotional Wellness for sponsoring this podcast. Started within New Hampshire's Department of Education, the Office of Social and Emotional Wellness consolidates policy development and implements projects and programs that are focused on health and wellness with an emphasis on behavioral health of all students, youth, and families. To learn more about the Department of Education and its many programs and approaches, visit www.education.nh.gov. New Hampshire Family Now is listed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and more. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or ask your smart speaker to play New Hampshire Family Now.